Anin buju Rito Walzak aren't Indigenakas, Gawaba Baganaka Gindunjiba. Hello everyone, my name is Rito Walzak Arndt, and I am of Polish descent and a citizen of the White Earth Nation of Ojibwe. My role at the Minnesota Historical Society is a collections outreach specialist in the Native American Initiatives Department. Welcome to the Minnesota Historical Society and to the 9th event in the Artist in the Gallery series. To start us off, I would like to say that my colleagues and I here at MNHS acknowledge that Minnesota is Dakota and Ojibwe homeland. Dakota creation stories are centered in Minnesota, and this regional territory is also an important place in traditional Ojibwe history, as well as those of other tribal nations. Today, Minnesota is both an ancestral and contemporary home to many Native people, including 11 Dakota and Ojibwe tribal nations. We are coming to you from our homes today, but we want to connect you with our home exhibit space and the beautiful artworks and stories that we have shared within the space. The museum is now open and we welcome you to visit by reserving tickets online. The idea of home in our homelands plays a central role in our recently developed exhibit, Our Home Native Minnesota. Today's program will be archived and available as a recording on Facebook and YouTube. The Artists in the Gallery series highlights many of the artists featured in Our Home Native Minnesota, and support for this program is provided by the Rosemary and David Good Family Foundation. We invite you to fill out a short survey following today's program and let us know what you think. Your input helps us build better programs. I have had the pleasure of working with many Native artists over the years, and I'm thrilled to be part of today's Artists in the Gallery series. Today, we're going to switch it up a little bit by talking about the newly released children's book, Josie Dances, written by Denise Lajmedier and illustrated with beautiful watercolors by Dr. Angela Erdrich. I'm going to do a short introduction for each, and then we will dive straight into questions. Denise Lajmedier is a retired associate professor of educational leadership at North Dakota State University and a citizen of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. She's a traditional jingle dress dancer, a poet, an author, a birch bark biting artist, and she lives in a cozy cottage by the lake on the Turtle Mountain Reservation. Yep. Dr. Angela Erdrich, the youngest of 7 children, has worked as a pediatrician in Native American communities since 1997. She majored in art and pre-med at Dartmouth, where she later attended medical school. She makes her home in Minneapolis, where she enjoys spotting birds and animals in the wild, just as she does at Turtle Mountain, where she's a tribal member. She learned watercolor painting from her high school art teacher. Josie Dances is her first illustrated book. Since we have time with its creators, I will only provide a super short synopsis of Josie Dances. Essentially, it's a cute little book about an Ojibwe girl practicing her dance steps, getting help from her family, and being inspired by the soaring flight of Migizi, or eagle, as she prepares for her first powwow. Chimi Gwitch for being with us today, Denise and Angela. Let's crack into it. The first thing I want to do is acknowledge that you two know each other and talk about how long have you known each other? Where did you meet? And just a little background there.
Go ahead, Angie. Jolly story.
So Denise and I met at Jolly's Supermarket in Belcourt, North Dakota, when she was a principal in Turtle Mountain at the elementary school, and I was a pediatrician working there at the time. And I knew that my sister had always known her because they'd worked together on history projects and stuff. My sister Lise, when she was living there, so she was kind of a longtime family friend. And then we met, and she was so good to my kids when they were little there, and we just stayed really close ever since then. And she's like, another sister, and my family loves you, Denise. And I want to thank you for your introduction, but also thank Denise for giving me the opportunity just to do this art and kind of, tiptoe back into the water of doing more art. Thank you for believing in me.
Yeah. So we've known each other since the 90s. And then Lisa was working here. Yeah. And then Hyde and Louise started doing some creative writing workshops here. So then I got to meet those two sisters. So, yeah.
Great. I just wanted to acknowledge that. But the thing is you didn't come together with this project at the beginning to work on this book together, right? It just was a happenstance that it ended up where you were working together. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I'd like to hear Angie's story about how I think the press vetted three artists, but I believe I had asked Angie, would you please just apply, because I'd seen her artwork in her home, because I always go when I go to Minneapolis, that's where I stay. I love their attic, and so it was just so delicate and so fine. I think she'd be perfect for this. So I asked her to apply, and I don't know what happened after that, or how you got. What did you have to do, Angie?
You had asked me, and then I was like trying to get my niece to do it because she's a really good artist, Asa Erger. And then and then somehow you're like, well, just submit some things that you've done. So I submitted a portrait of my sister and some watercolors of beadwork, and then they chose me, which is kind of a risk because I take a really long time to finish things. So at some point I thought the deadline was a year from now. And then one time I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, I was a year behind.
Yeah, well, I think originally it wasn't going to be published till next year, but then another project didn't work out. So they moved us up. So that was fabulous.
Yeah.
I was happy anyway, but I know that put pressure on you.
Yeah, well, it was like a big challenge for me. Like my watercolor process, it's like it hasn't changed since I was a teenager in some ways. Just I buy really thick, like 300 or 400 pound Arches cold pressed paper, like really thick stuff. And the paints that I was telling people, some of the paints I had are literally from the 80s. So I don't know if they still have toxins in them and stuff, but like I'd had to like open up some of the paint container because they're still good. You just have to add water to them, and so there's like a lot of I had to go buy supplies that I hadn't done for a while. So it's like this really great experience, and it's really a family experience for me because a lot of it was during COVID times, and we were kind of stuck in the house. So I know that, this week I'm going to work on these pages, and all the processes I went through. My daughter was sitting there next to me, Hema, doing beadwork, and she was learning to be a better beadworker while I was, getting my rusty paintbrushes out and relearning and stuff. So it was a good experience.
There it is.
Yeah, there's that. That
wow.
That table was always full of all my different palettes, and that's about all my paintings, right? My paint tubes right there. Yep, and they're different colors. So
great, thank you for sharing. So Denise, I wanted to ask what prompted you into writing a children's book, and why did you choose the topic that you chose?
Yeah, well, the story, it's a true story in the book that got me started. Of my family and my daughter and I, we were powwow people from the time she could walk. She's 47 years old, but from the time she could start walking, we traveled all over the Northern Plains, and we lived in Denver at one time too, so we traveled all over Utah and everywhere to go to powwows. But this was a powwow up north. Can't remember which powwow it was, maybe up in Canada, but she was about 4 or 5 years old, and she stepped out of the tent and she saw a huge bird just flying a little ways away above by the tree line. And it was so cute, and I've never forgotten it. She just raised her little hands and she just said, me, take me. And she wanted to fly with that bird. It was so cute. So I've kept that story now for 40 some years. And I was watching some other stories and reading some children's stories, and I had no idea what it took to read a children's story. I hadn't taken any classes or workshops. I just knew that I had this story I wanted to tell. So that's how it started. And then I was kicking it around, and I met with Ben Gessner there. And I said, I have this children's story. He goes, well, we have a press. And I go, what? He goes, well, Shannon Penfeather said, why don't you set up a meeting with her and run it by her? So I did, and she was receptive to even meeting with me. And we sat there in the museum, and I ran the story by her. And she said, well, send me the manuscript. So I did. So it was so cool. But then the rest of the story is that she liked it, and she accepted it, and she brought it to her committee. And they came back, and for the story at first was that story of her at the powwow and seeing the bird. And then it was going to the powwow and being introduced into the powwow circle, and that was the main part of it. And so she came back and she said, well, even though it's only 700 words, the committee says that children's books now have to have attention. Something has to be resolved. So it's like, oh, okay, I can do that. So Shannon and I went back and forth for about a year with me coming up with ideas. And that's where the idea came of she needed her outfit in order to dance. So that was kind of the creative part of the book that I came up with tension. Because I was looking at Jingle Dancer and that little book, and she was gathering jingles to dance. So that was some of the tension there. So I can have her needing all her aunties and grandmas and everyone to help her with her outfit over the winter. And the same thing with I was always told that to have the right to wear an eagle plume. This is from like 40 years ago, elders, that you need to have your name, your tribal name, or your spirit name. So Grandma Great Walker really did name my daughter and I. And I asked the Great Walker family if I could put Grandma in the book, and they agreed. So that was pretty cool. So that's how I came up with the story. It was 700 words. Was it takes a lot to even, because every word's got to count. So I tried to use my poetry skills in there and have a little bit of rhyme and a little bit of rhythm in there. So I worked on that, but it took about a year and a half for us to come up with the final version, and then it was off to selecting an artist. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. That's so, it's so interesting. I always love hearing you speak, Denise, so it's great. Angie, can you talk a little bit about your journey as an artist, especially when it comes to watercolors, and how illustrating for this book kind of fits into it? Does it fit into it? How does it fit into it? And stuff like that.
Well, I work as a pediatrician, so doing art, I don't have like a very sustained effort that's been going on for a while, and I have 4 kids, and so and I get involved in a lot of things like gardening and stuff. So I'd say this was like a really great project for me because I like to do things that I can combine passions, and so like I like to make something that's specific to a place, so then I tried to put birds in here that were from, that I had actually seen at Turtle Mountain when I was living there, or are from North Dakota, or plants. And I tried to incorporate like things that showed the pride I have in Turtle Mountain people, because there's just so many really talented Turtle Mountain people. And so I felt like this was a project for me to kind of showcase Turtle Mountain people. I could show you one of the pages where it's like, there's one that's my mom's, an idealized version of my mother's kitchen. And then the other side is like the grandmothers, and the aunt are there. And that page has a lot of like hidden meaning. This one here. Yeah. So I think was someone able to like Allison or Emily able to stick the picture up there? I'm not sure. So this painting, this shows my mom's paintings, and the history behind those paintings. I got to go over them with my mom, and my mother is an artist, and she told me the story of these 3 paintings that have always hung on her wall at home that she did. And then I also included some of the art from people at Turtle Mountain. So our friend Judy Azure, who's a very good friend of ours, it shared with me some of her pottery and beadwork, and I was able to put those things in there. And then there's a beautiful Ojibwe beadwork cradle board. Yeah, that's Judy's beautiful pottery, and she allowed me to put that in there. And then Denise's beautiful, amazing cradle board that she's been so generous. She's let me, this is Judy's beadwork too. And Denise has let a lot of babies get their photo taken in a beautiful cradle board. So I included that in there. And then I tried to just make it show something that was another things that we could be proud of about the people involved in powwows and their amazing outfits. It's like inimitable, I said, because like I can't even draw or paint an outfit as well as these people can conceive of them, and make, every motif matches. That's my mom. And, we tried to show like different, every different type of dance in the different outfits in the side pages, and a lot of different scenes of beadwork that are actually like Denise. Some of it's Denise's beadwork that she would share with me, and then I'd say, "Hey, anything else you want me to put in there of yours?" And she'd take a picture of her ring or other things, And there's Turtle Mountain culture of the Juneberry picking and things like that. So it's kind of it's just a little highlights of things that are really there at Turtle Mountain. That's Denise's beadwork there. I think we were at a powwow, and I was like, I'm gonna take a picture of your moccasins.
Yeah.
I tried.
Yeah.
I used some of those motifs. That yellow motif is in there. That flower.
Yeah.
So thanks.
Yeah, we went to a lot of powwows, and when 47 years ago the fancy shawl dancers danced differently than they do now. I started out, when I first started out dancing, I was a fancy shawl dancer. I was like 19, and we just held our arms and our shawl pretty close to our waist and just moved our feet. Well, it's changed now to where the girls are throwing their shawls and they're twisting into. I love it. It's gorgeous. So with you can tell with the cover, we're trying to get that. Angie was trying to capture that, throwing the shawls away the way the girls do now. But there's one particular dancer, Gracie, her mini horses, and when she throws her shawl, it almost looks like the fingertips of an eagle, and that's where I got that idea, and that's where I got her name. From that idea is that at the end, the last picture in the book, Angie and I talked about it. Well, we had a lot of late night conversations, and I said, I need you to just make her those look like the wings, the fingers of that eagle at the end of the story. So then she was young eagle woman. She was flying like she wanted to be when she stepped out of that tent. She was flying as a fancy shawl dancer. So Angie captured that so beautifully. But we looked at a lot of photos, and we went to powwows, and I said, the way that girl's throwing her shawl, try to capture that.
Yeah, she asked me page by page. I was like, "What do you want for this page?" And then, I jot down ideas of what you had said, and I even have there's a picture of her sewing, and that's actually Denise sewing that I did that page from.
Yeah, show that again, Angie. It didn't show the.
Oh, did it? Let me see.
You showed the wrong side of the page. We're backwards on here, so we have confused.
Really? Sorry.
But yeah, I sat down at the sewing machine, and then that beadwork is I left it in Maui at my friend's house, so I have to go pick it up. Okay.
That's Denise,
yeah.
Right?
That's my hair, except
my
hair's brown.
And those are some moccasins that you made, and she's like, make her look like she's using a bath towel to practice dancing. So
yeah, because everything's not ready yet. We're not finished with our beadwork yet.
Something else.
So. And then it was a good catch too, because in the story I had written about choke cherries being ripe in June. And I know better than that, because I pick choke cherries and grind them and make syrup and everything. But Angie caught that. She goes, wouldn't it be June berries in June? I go, yeah. So she did a beautiful job. And again, that picture of that's my barrette there. And I couldn't find it. I think I put it in my safety deposit box. But that's actually a picture she took of me a long time ago, picking out at my grandmother's place, picking berries, and then the beautiful birch bark basket. So I just love that. But she put my beadwork in there. That's so cool.
I also got help from a couple of photographers. Skip Baumhauer allowed me to use some of his powwow photos, but and also Wayne Perala, who's an amazing bird photographer in Minnesota. Most of the birds in here are pictures that he took that I worked from. I was really into like these kind of seek and find animals, so I don't know if I want to go to that page, but there's this page. Let's see. These are all like animals that are from Turtle Mountain, and you can see a bittern there, which is a bird that is they call it swamp drainer because it makes kind of that noise, and then that's a little bit stylized version of a barn swallow, and then there's 3 or 4 little animals that you definitely see in Turtle Mountain.
Yeah, well, there's a turtle. I saw the turtle, and then
Yeah.
kids were telling me about there's a salamander, a lizard. I go, what? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
And now
There's
I
a
can
lot
see
of
it.
salamanders in Turtle Mountain.
And there's a frog, and of course I told her put dragonflies in there, so she did. But then an eagle, and then there's the purple coneflower, which is very common here, of course, and it's a medicine. And then talk about your dog. I love she put her dog in there. It was so cool. Show Zuzu.
We have a very cute dog, so I stuck named Zuzu.
Yeah.
And Zuzu's in there maybe like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, so it was so fun. And then is that cabin your family's cabin there on the other side of that page with Grandma Great Walker? Talk about your cabin there.
That is
Yeah.
the house that my mom first lived in when she was little.
It's
There's
a log
also,
house, a 2-story log house.
My favorite page is this one because it shows the different dancers. But this is a picture of my grandfather who was a dancer in the 60s and 70s. You know,
I used to dance with him
that's cool. My
at the powwows
my uncle, it was kind of cool because it brought up family stories. My aunt was like, my husband Ron Manson. She's like, so my uncle said he was like a trading post for Grandpa because he'd say, go trap some some weasels, and those are white weasel tails that he has on his earrings. So we just brought up family stories, which was really cool for me.
But I'm hearing from families that are reading this to their daughters, especially, that they love that first. They can't get past opening up the book with all of the pictures. So I sent her I had some of my powwow friends. So this is Bev Larby Medhog from South Dakota. And then she put me in there. That's me, my dress right there. Nice. Yeah. And then I think your niece is in there, Guige. So the kids are just fascinated with just that page talking about, oh, that's a fancy shawl, or that's a traditional dancer. That's a jingle dress dancer. So the kids can't even get past that opening page. They're so fascinated by that alone. That's stories I'm hearing.
Oh, I could do that forever. So I would like a job just painting those.
Yeah, look at that. Wow.
Yeah, that's my grandpa and my cousin. Cheap.
Well, then you need to talk about Emmett.
Oh, okay. Do you have that video? Can you pull up the video that shows like the process of painting? So Emmett Eastman is the 89-year-old Dakota Oyate Dakota man from who's famous. He's like world famous for being a marathon runner and a leader, and he is always at different powwows around the country. So it's kind of like an inside joke. Like, oh, I had an Emmett spotting, or people post, there's a Facebook page, like, I'm a friend of Emmett Eastman's.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So gorgeous.
So Emmett was a really good sport. I learned a lot about him, but I've interviewed him a few times because he's a runner and he's very super healthy. And so he lived a couple of blocks from us growing up. And he told me that he always has lightnings on his beadwork because he is a descendant of his many lightnings. And so I had talks with him, like, do you mind doing this, Emmett? I made posters for him of that piece of art because I thought, oh, that'd be fun if he could kind of sign his autograph on them. And so he's just he's like, why not have some fun? And he's really sweet about it. And he allowed us to do that. So thank you, Mr. Eastman. You are a legend. And the whole Facebook page about I'm a friend of Emmett Eastman Facebook page was kind of interested in him being in this book, you know. So he's got a lot of fans out there.
Thank you so much for sharing all of the details of the people who you've talked to, the places, the landscape of the Turtle Mountains. I wanted to ask about the inclusion of language in this book, and why is it important? Why do you think it's important, Denise, especially for a children's book, to include Ojibwe language throughout, especially without having the direct translations right after the word, which we're kind of used to a lot? There is a glossary in the back of the book, but
Yeah.
you don't necessarily do that during the book. Can you talk about why it was important for you to include Ojibwe in this book?
Yeah, I was taking a class from, I can remember his name now, Sutherland Mimagwesi. Do you know who I'm saying? Yeah. So I was taking classes from him. So I was learning these words, and I've taken a lot of Ojibwe classes. You know, I grew up hearing a mixture of French and Cree, Michif, and my grandmother was Cree, but in order to live here in Turtle Mountains, all of our elders, they had to learn how to speak Michif and Cree and Chippewa, and she could speak all of those languages. And then, of course, boarding school and so on. And my parents were all boarding schooled, so they had the language literally beaten out of them. So even though I grew up hearing Michif, the language of our ceremonies that we brought back here, Maday, the sweat, the Sundance, shake tent, the language of those ceremonies, of course, is Ojibwe. Because in Michif, all the nouns are in French, and you don't go into a sweat lodge saying, "Oh, merci, merci," you know. So I wanted to learn the language of Ojibwe, the language of our ceremonies. And so taking the class, I thought, well, I'll just add this little bit of Ojibwe words for each of the women to say to her. So I thought that was just was fun to include that.
That is kind of the way people, when they're teaching their kids Ojibwe, they'll just kind of do part Ojibwe speaking, and then they'll speak some English too, and it just kind of ring a bell as very true.
Yeah. Yep. So it's just a little bit to it, with the names that they would call her, all the different aunties and grandmas and kukums and nukomas, you know, what they would call her. I thought that was sweet.
Yes, I definitely agree. And I want to remind all of our viewers that we will be taking questions in a few moments. So if you have questions to ask Denise or Angie, please feel free to put them in the comments. We do have staff moderating that space, and we'll be able to share them shortly. So what has been you've talked about the project, but has been your favorite reception of the book so far? Like, what was your favorite part when you've talked to people so far, even though it is just released today, but we know some people have seen it before.
Yeah, well, I've had the 10 authors copies, so I went around and gave them to my young nieces and nephews, and even Angie's nephew and his wife just had a baby, and she's only 6 months old. But what she really liked, she sat on they've been reading to her, so she sat on my lap, but she was squeaking the book with her little, her little sweaty hand. She was just squeaking the pages. And then I gave it to another little bit older child, and she did the same thing. So the pages are glossy, but they feel good, so they're tactile for the real young ones. But again, it's people messaging me that have ordered it already and said that they have to read it over and over again at night to their children, or it's the most requested book for nighttime reading. That has just done my heart good. It's my first children's book. I had no idea how this was going to work, how this was going to go. So this is all new to me. It's just, I'm fascinated by the process and by the response. I was scared to death of reviews. Debbie Reese gave it a highly recommend, and that was like my Oscar moment for for my children's book. So it's getting some Kirkus review is out and some others. So the whole process is new to me. So I'm enjoying it immensely. It's been total fun.
I've been enjoying just my family. I asked my mom and my sister Lise especially for a lot of help, and for my mom is a very good artist, and she has a really good eye, so I really appreciate, like when
Yeah.
I could get something to like her standard, but also she was really good with like, oh, that elbow is way out of place, or, really good with like proportions and stuff. And then my sister Elise, who's so modest and everything, but she gave me a lot of tips, like, like I had the wrong type of flicker tail in there, and she's like, no, you need this kind. So when you can get something to like her standards, or she's like, oh, she and Katie Ferris helped me with this map, and she said, you better put a citation. I'd be pretty mad if I were that cartographer from 1879 and you left something out or whatever. It's still like sweet, like you really want to do something to the standards of the people who care about the history and stuff. So I guess, and also just my husband's been really sweet, like really, really supportive and kind of like plugging in at work, or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I first talked to you about it, he came and told me, he said, I'm so glad. He said, we really want to see her getting back into painting. He's like whispering at me, so keep encouraging her.
I know, he so values it, and so sweet. Yeah.
I think one of the fun parts is the collaboration that Angie and I had often late at night. Like she told me for the one where Grandma Greatwalker is dreaming of her name. So she had me lay down on my bed, and I had to take a selfie of myself laying there in my nightgown and everything. So that was fun. And then
we didn't share that photo, no, because there's one of me too. I'm like, that's my star quilt and everything, and like, I'd be like, Denise, you need to tell me this now. It's like midnight or whatever. I just because I'm in the middle of doing something. So
the one I love though is when we were talking about what to name the Indian taco truck, the taco truck. We just I was just hooting and hollering. I think we were going to call it Froggy Fry Bread or something. Fresh frogs fry. I don't know. We had some, and then so it turned out to be the Doughboy, and then he's got braids and feathers for the Indian taco truck. Yeah. So that was so much fun, just coming up with the name alone for that at the powwow, because of course we had to have.
Sister Hyde added the Z. She goes, I think that constitutes satire if you use
okay, good.
So instead of apostrophe X or whatever.
Yeah. Isn't there's a drum group? What's the name of the drum group? They have a Z. I think they're out of Minneapolis, but anyway, yeah. So the, collaborations like that were just totally fun working with Angie.
Now, you've talked about so many of the different stories, the little details. Is there something we haven't talked about yet that you just really, really love and want readers to take away from when they read the book over and over again?
Well, I think the tension part was on the page, and it's the page that has Angie had me send her this, but then the mama has it as an earring, so it was pretty cool. So this is actually the necklace made by a Turtle Mountain artist, and in that page, that's where the tension was. Is that Josie's going, oh geez, I want to dance, or I'm supposed to have my coming out ceremony, and nothing's ready yet. So she's kind of looking down and looking sad. And then I wanted to make sure that when the kids turn the page, there's everybody, yay! There's aunties and Kookums and Grandma Greatwalker with her name. So it's just the tension is solved. So that was one of my favorite. All the beadwork's done, and then Angie would ask me what should the grandmas wear, and I said, put them in ribbon skirts. So she did calico ribbon skirts. I mean, look at just the dainty detail. I knew that that's what she would do best, is just those little tiny flowers, just remarkable, beautiful artwork. So she, to me, 700 words. Yeah, it took a year and a half even just to come up with a final draft, but she made the story come alive just beautifully. I'm blown away. Yeah. Angie, what do you think?
Well, I'm like, you can tell I worked really hard on it, because I was kind of rusty and stuff. And I was like, God, it's like when you see like a 8th grade boy who does like a really good Ninja Turtle or something, and you're like, wow, he worked really hard on that, A+ for effort. So I feel like part of it reminds me of that about me. It's like, well, I put the effort in anyway. But I would have to say, like, anybody who really makes these, makes a,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
that's like me trying to do different versions of her. And she'd be like, come out like an older girl each time. But
Yeah.
my mom would be like, a child that age has these kind of proportions to her face or whatever. I was like literally looking at a learn to draw book, but so
Oh.
the outfits, like I wanted to mention, I think someone was going to put a link on there. I asked my friend Jody Archambault, gee, would you share this post you had done about the origins of your outfit? And it's now in the Met. It's this beautiful white buckskin, beautiful traditional outfit. And like all the thought process that went into the color of the bead and the historic meaning of the bead, and like the pattern of sunburst pattern, the color scheme is like a sunset, and just like
Yep.
the size beads, and who did the knife sheath, and who did this part of it. It's like so many people had to work on this outfit. And I just like, I'm in awe that a woman like Jody, who has so much going on, and she's a mom, she's a political leader, she's like a think tanker, she's got everything, and she's like beading at night, and conceiving of the perfect outfit. And there's a lot of people out there like that are Native, and they're just so multi-talented, and this is a tribute to them, and it's a imperfect tribute. But if you go to a powwow and you see some of those outfits, it's just amazing what people come up with and how beautiful they are. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Angie, I believe you are one of those multi-talented natives too, so don't discredit you. Like, this book is so beautiful, and so much comes through the images too. There's a story on every page, I swear. That's how I feel. I think we've had a lot of questions in, so I think if our background people can start bringing them up. And Debbie Reese is watching today, Denise. I just wanted to bring
Oh, good. Yes.
So we're a big fan over here at the Historical Society of Debbie Reese.
Yes, good, Debbie.
Oh, Dwayne.
So Dwayne Yazzie asks, isn't it quite atypical for author and illustrator to collaborate in the manner that you are explaining? I'm curious how you both were able to do this when it isn't the norm in the publishing world.
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing it any other way, because I don't know if it's typical, but I would have gotten so many things wrong if I didn't just have Denise to like set me straight. And that's not good. And if you're, especially, I'm only doing something Turtle Mountain because I'm a Turtle Mountain tribal member, but I think it'd be pretty hard to do something from someone else's tribal background, and maybe not even right too these days, but I really needed help, and people were really generous. There's like a Turtle Mountain Facebook page, and they're so nice. When I'd be like asking for what are some things I should put in there, and people would, they would be kind enough to say, yes, those look like June berries, perfect June berries, or whatever. So it probably should be the norm, Dwayne. And Dwayne and I go way back. From I used to be a teacher at a school that he went to, and now he's works at a school himself.
Yeah, I had years ago, I had gone to an SCBWI workshop. I think I was in Grand Forks or Fargo, and there an author a children's book author was talking about, it must have been like maybe a New York publisher, but she said that she didn't get a chance to talk. She couldn't choose the author, the illustrator, the publishing company did, and she just hated the. So I think we were lucky that we, small press and so on, but they let me give suggestions of artists. So yeah, that's not usual. So
it definitely should be, because it's only going to improve the art.
Yeah.
I think it's a great collaboration between you two, and listening to you talk about it, I just wish that was an experience for more authors.
Yeah.
So you can definitely tell me what to do, Denise. Just tell me.
Leah Harp asks, it is wonderful to have books with Indigenous themes and images by Indigenous writers and artists. Is there a list of similar recommended books for kids of different ages? And are they available at Birch Bark Books?
Debbie Reese has a
Yes.
blog,
A blog. Yeah.
American Indians and Children's Literature, and it's like a great resource for teachers, and it's served such a purpose. Just answering that question, I just say look up Debbie Reese, and yeah, there's a lot of great books at Birch Bark Books that you can look through.
Yep.
Our pal Jenny Kryptonite asks, what was something you wish you could have included in this book and would feature in your next publication, as writing and as art? Please both answer.
So Denise?
I don't know. Was there something that
I wish I had like, oh God, I mean, my process was laborious. So I wish, and if I ever do something like this again, I would start with a model who was the right age and who just take a lot of pictures of that person in all their expressions and stuff like that. Because, you know, I think there's one in here, this little girl, like I was just literally looking through my photos and like, oh, there's my neighbor girl, Anna. I'm going to ask her mom if I can kind of put her in there. And, you know, like I had to like really look around for people to work from and photos to work from. And I like to work from photos. So I would be more consistent that way. But I would also make a Palo outfit that made 100% total sense and was, you know.
Well, Debbie
Oh,
Reese.
Debbie. Yeah.
Speaking of, she's learning about birch bark biting and wondering if that could be another collaboration between you two, and if it's something you've thought about or maybe even discussed.
What my next book I'm thinking about writing is about birch bark biting, but all of I've learned so much through the grant that I was given through Minnesota Historical Society, all the research that I did, and there's medicines, and there just birch bark just meant so much to Ojibwe people. So I'd like to write a non-fiction, historical book for children's age about birch bark and all of the different medicines and how to peel it and so on, and the ceremonies and some of my birch bark biting. I just put together 50 packets to do a virtual birch bark for teachers in Minneapolis sometime in June, and that was a lot of work. And I'm actually out of birch bark because the pandemic. I haven't gone to. I gather my birch bark in Michigan, but yeah, maybe Angie and I could work on that together. I would love it.
Denise has the right kind of tooth for like doing it.
Her work is so
pretty.
My vampire teeth.
Denise makes earrings out of birch bark that she sells, and
similar to
beautiful
to what Rita has on. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet, Anna.
Yeah, so Anna thinks you all should have a signing in Wapaton with Emmett.
Oh my gosh,
wouldn't that be fun?
That'd be so cool.
That would
he
be
has
great.
a new outfit too that
wow.
I would
Yeah.
with lightnings on it. That'd be so cool.
I would love to just do signings in person again, period. Wanagijik.
Oh, yes, there's a real artist. Yep.
Sanchi, bonjour. Thank you, Mr. Wanagijik.
Wanagijik asks, how do you imagine the future forward of indigenization with Indigenous writers, publishers, and illustrators in general? Obviously, you worked with the Minnesota Historical Society Press, but what would you love to the future of creating like you've created look like for Indigenous folks?
Well, I'm so new to this. I mean, Minnesota Historical Society was amazing. Like this, the Susan Everson, who was the designer, was so great, and the process with Shannon Penfeather. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing. But I would think like any place that's doing this would, if you're writing something about a Navajo person, then there's a lot of Navajo artists out there, and try to find someone who really knows what they're doing. And like we've been talking, like it really does help to like run everything by the person who wrote it or the experts. Sometimes I had to ask other people about things too, my mom. especially.
Well, you're looking at native writers now, like Angelina Bowley and is it Firekeeper's Daughter? And there's some other books that are making it onto the New York Times bestseller list. I believe there was 3 at one time, the native authors. And then Don Quigley and Jojo McCoons is doing, and there's Angela Rogers. There's a few others. I'm not prepared to answer this, but there is definitely a big movement out there for Native writers and Indigenous writers. And is it Heart Drum? It's an imprint of somewhere. Debbie would know it, and so they're looking for more Native stories. I was at the SCBWI, and they were looking for manuscripts from ethnic minority writers, especially Native writers. So there's it. Just get busy and start writing. Get your work out there.
Great. So would that be your advice for people who maybe they don't consider themselves writers, but just get out and do it?
People have stories.
It helps to attend some workshops, and SCBWI has a lot of workshops, query letters and how to write children's book. There's a lot of workshops out there that I would highly recommend attending them and signing up for SCBWI and just looking for workshops on how to write children's books. Like I said, that 700 words, it sounds like it's easy to do, but it's not. I'm writing a book now that it's going to be for grades 4th on up, and it can have like 2,900 words in it. So that's a really big challenge for me right now. I'm kind of struggling with it, but I belong to a group of writers, Native writers, where I can submit my work to them and they'll review it and we'll help each other out. And I belong to a writers group in Fargo, Jill Candell and the OK Write group, and they're all non-Native, but I ran this manuscript by them, and I want it to be to a general audience so that everyone can understand it and relate to it. So they helped me with, they were tremendous amount of help. So I, belong to writers groups, belong to groups that, everyone is, people are published in writing children's books, and that's a tremendous help.
Great. Megan Evans asks, thinking about books from your childhoods, what books inspired you and what about them inspired you or helped shape you into the amazing people you are? And do they still hold up today?
Oh, wow. Angie, go ahead.
I'm really into children's books now, that because I'm a pediatrician, I'm a member of Reach Out and Read, and our clinic has given out like over 10,000 books in the last, since I've been working there. And on the reservation, we're always collecting books and Birch Bark books. So I feel like I've seen like every good and bad children's book out there, So but she said this, I was gonna say like my illustration style is very like realistic, and my mom would always check out this book, Elves and Fairy, which is famous illustrator Garth Williams, who wrote Little Fur Family, which is a really great book, or he illustrated, maybe he wrote it too, but there's so many great illustrations in here. And my mom was always like, oh, Garth Williams is the best illustrator, but so cute, and he got the hands just right, and so I guess I like that kind of classic style of like kind of realistic and fanciful. I hope, like early on someone told me, you don't have to make it, kids aren't necessarily interested in like perfect perspective or anything. So you can just let go of that perfectionism. And I was telling Shannon, I'm an imperfectionist. This is great because I'm already an imperfectionist. And so that freed me up just to kind of mix perspectives and stuff. And I was really thankful for someone for setting me free. A visitor who came right before the pandemic.
Yeah, I was a voracious reader growing up, and back in those days, we would go to the library on Saturdays. I grew up in Portland, Oregon. We relocated when I was 6 years old to Portland, Oregon, the relocation program, and mom would go get her hair at the hairdressers, and so I would walk down the street to the library. And back then, you could only check out 3 books. The library, the library had to be quiet, and they should only let us pick out 3 books. And by the end of like Saturday and Sunday, I'd be done with the books that I picked up. But I read everything. I would tie a book to my belt and I'd climb. We had huge fir trees in Oregon. I'd climb a tree and read. So of course, Nancy Drew, Little Women. There was, I think, a Little Putin's, that Narnia, all the Narnia books. I was into horses, Misty of Chincoteague. So I can't remember all the books that I read, but I just, and I think that helped me with that because I was extremely shy. I couldn't talk, but I even quit talking once for about 6 months and had to go see a therapist. There's a lot of racism there and kids making fun of me and so on. So reading was just a way of escaping. I would sit up in bed late at night with a flashlight and then get up early in the mornings and read. And that I read as much as I could. So I'm glad now that I don't think the libraries limit you to 3 books anymore for children. But I remember thinking, that's just awful. I'm going to read these books before the week is over.
I'm kind of into quirky illustrations too. Like I have a collection of like obscure 1980s cartoon kind of books and like cartoons from the 60s and 70s. And I would read those, and She-Ra and stuff like that to my kids. So I almost got more into children's books when when eBay was available and also my kids were littler. And do they hold up the test of time? The writing in this one is like really overdone. Like it doesn't make any sense for the age group of kids, but I kind of am into the illustrations a little bit more, or the, quirky like writing style of the 60s. And I kind of, you put on your voices and make fun of it in a way. I like that.
Thank you both for sharing. And Debbie Reese has a good suggestion about those trying to break into the field is bring a friend, always bring a friend. They can help support you in your needs, especially when it comes to Indigenous issues. This book has a lot of information and there's a lot that could be used in the classroom. Yeah. So how do either of you see how this could be used to teach non-Native students about Native culture, or even Native students about Native culture and practices and stuff like that? How do you think that it could be used for that?
Well, it's a powwow story, and yet it has traditions in there about entering into the welcoming ceremony of entering into the powwow. I don't know if that's done so much anymore. I'm still a major powwow person. I do see people just sort of announcing, this is my son or my daughter's first time in the powwow arena, then that's it. But before, we used to have an honor song for them, and the family would even have a little giveaway. And they were just beautiful little ceremonies. But so it's just it's about ceremony and Grandma Great Walker too. I think it's just a beautiful way to introduce maybe non-Native children to some of the ceremonies that are also involved in powwow. So many people, powwow is just competition and it's just about money. But for myself and my family, there was a lot more to it. Like I think Angie or you said, there's a story behind everything on our outfit. There's a story behind everything, and there's a story behind every page here that can be told. As about the eagle, about all these different outfits and where they come from and how they're made and the family that's involved in them. So so I think everyone, non-Native and Native students, can learn something about our ceremonies, our little powwow ceremonies, powwow world.
Teachers are always looking for sources that it's a safe thing to teach, so I think there's a lot of there could be a lot of ways to maybe make a slideshow that goes with it, showing the different types of powwow dancing. Just something simple, like a simple lesson like that, I think would be good. And it's something that a teacher could show and not have to reinvent the wheel herself. I also say, like, I wanted to show through like how much care goes into getting a child ready for a powwow, because like having myself, when kids were little and just trying to get an outfit together, I'd have to borrow from my sister. Denise would loan me something, just sort of getting an outfit together and sort of having things right. And it's like I'd look at some kids who had it, you know, their outfits, so just like at a young age have everything together like that. Judy, our friend Judy, like she makes multiple grandchildren like perfect
Yeah.
outfits somehow, and it's like
Yeah.
it just shows like a lot of love and care that has gone into treasuring that child. You know, other things I think just from being about North Dakota, like it shows that the actual animals and birds and things that are from there. And I think that's really important because these kids learn all about like giraffes and elephants and stuff like that, which that's cool. And but they don't learn about like the stuff that actually grows and lives around where they are from. And I really am. That's a big passion of mine. You know, just like the natural ecosystem and getting kids to understand what's around them is beautiful.
And I like the end story there about Turtle Mountain, where when you come south from Rugby, which I have a Birch Bark show in Rugby Museum, so I've been going down there a lot. When I come back home, and it was decades ago that I was told by an elder that so when you're going north, you can see the hills start taking shape, and so there's the body of the turtle, and then the tail, and then the head. And they said that the head of the tail, the head of the turtle is facing towards Botno. It sort of goes down a little ways, and then the heart of the turtle is the Turtle Mountains, you know, where our reservation is, Dunseith and Belcourt. And then the tail of the turtle is Rolla, Ozoltung. So I love that that
so
image.
I tried to illustrate that, and I was like, geez, has anybody ever illustrated that before? Because I didn't want to make, you know, like copy whatever someone else had done, but like it was like this map that Katie Ferris and my sister Lee Surdrick sent me to, you know, to get that, and then I combined it with a map of North Dakota. But a lot of people didn't really know where the name Turtle Mountain came from, you know, Turtle Mountain, and I was glad that now I know, and it's like there's a visual to it too.
Yep. We're just the little carapaces of the hills. You know, we're not mountains, but we're just little hills. And we have a creek that flows through here, and I think it's called Ox Creek, but for our people, it's called CB Sing. When I was way up in Canada, you know, way north of like Edmonton, there was a Cree family there that was visiting with me, and they go, "Oh, Turtle Mountain." They said, "We always used to say we're going to go to CP Sing." So outside people, Ojibwe people, will call it CB Sing, and for us here, it may not be the most perfect interpretation of CB Sing, but it's called the little creek that sings, is what the people here call it. So it may not be, you know, the right word for it, but that's what we say here. So I loved hearing that our original, the people, Ojibwe people, call the Turtle Mountains CB Sing instead of Belcourt. But there's a little creek that flows through it that still flows through our reservation, CB Sing. And in the spring, when the snows melt and so on, and from the lake, from the Fish Lake, that where my cozy cottage is, right out here, Fish Lake, it does become a little roaring little river, you know, over the lakes, and of course you can hear it talking to you. It does sing. So that's pretty cool.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. As we're ending this Artist in the Gallery series for today, is there anything that you just want to end with, Denise or Angie?
I want to thank my mom again and my husband for supporting me, and all the people at Minnesota Historical Society Press who gave advice and endless advice.
Yeah, I have to thank Shannon for believing in my little story, and for helping pull me along, you know, as an editor to where the shape of the book is now. Yeah.
My kids, wonderful. They're super supportive. Their favorite thing is this bear.
Makwa. Makun's baby bear.
Well, thank you so much, Chimigwish, to both of you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We value your perspective, so after the program, please take a 3-minute survey to help us understand your experience. A recording of today's program will be available on the Minnesota Historical Society Facebook page and YouTube channel. You'll be able to view this at your leisure as many times as you want and share it with your classroom, perhaps. Please join us next month on June 24th for a conversation about lacrosse and community health with John Hunter and Eon Walking Elk. Again, thank you so much. Chimigwich, everybody.
Thank you.
Good.